Welcome to the Approach podcast. I'm Cassidy Gates, founder of The Approach and creator of the Soma and Semantics practice. This is a place where curiosity comes first. Together we explore the science of behavior, communication, somatic practices, consciousness, leadership, and the patterns that shape how we think, speak, and live. Each conversation is an invitation to look through a different lens, not to tell you what to believe, but to give you ideas worth examining. At The Approach, we believe the body primes, words cast, actions create. Whether you're here to challenge your perspective, deepen your understanding, or simply become more intentional in how you move through life, we thank you for listening. Now let's begin today's conversation. Hello, everybody. This is Cassidy with the Approach podcast. And today I have a guest with me, Jay Setchell. But not only that, I have one of my first potential co-hosts on here with me, Chris LaBonte. I'm going to let both of them go ahead and tell a little bit about themselves. Mr. Setchell.
I'm just a farm kid originally from Northern Illinois. I'm in Central Texas now. Have been in Texas for about 30 years. Came down here corporately, and born and raised on a farm. Did a lot of work. Learned a lot of the good stuff that I needed. Went from there into the Marine Corps. I guess the best thing is just say as a quick overview, I've had multiple deaths. They've gotten me back. Multiple near deaths. 73 surgeries, and it's what you learn from that stuff. I've been married and divorced a couple of times. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've started, I think, 16 companies, might be 15, and I'm very involved in one now that we're national, and we just went international. And that's really stuff. I'll be 77 coming up. I'm mostly paralyzed. I'm in a power wheelchair right now. My left arm works pretty good, but the rest of me doesn't do too well. And I enjoy helping people. I enjoy sharing stuff that I wish I would have known 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, and why and where it came from, because it's learned and it's earned. And I think that's very important.
So with resilience, one of the things I've always wondered, so you said you believed it's earned. Do you think people can be born with that mindset, or is it something developed over time?
I believe resilience in that use of that word. I really believe, I'm seventh or eighth generation on our farm. So it came from a lot of work, and then, from their ancestors and so on. So it's hard for me to not believe a little of it's in your DNA. So you may be born with a little, but you gain it throughout life. And so whatever resilience you have, for example, or that Chris has, you've failed, or you have stumbled, or you've gone down a detour, and you've been able to correct it, and you've learned from it, and so on. That's part of builds your resilience. And I think, like my life and death issues and all the surgeries and just not quitting and putting up with it is what helps develop your resilience. And time in life, and that can also be used as the words discipline and consistency. So if you just don't quit, no matter what it is, it's not so much what you've achieved or what you've gotten through, it's how did you do it and what did you learn from it. And that to me is what really develops resilience.
Okay, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Okay, sweet. Well, before I do that, I just wanted to say I love what you just said about discipline and consistency. Most times when people talk about discipline, they leave out the consistency part. And I don't think there is any discipline without consistency. But with that, my name is Chris LaBonte. I, too, am a prior military person. I was in the U.S. Army from think it was 2013. Oh no, I originally it was National Guard, but 2010, and then I carried through service all the way into active duty, and then eventually left in 2018. I was here. I'm here outside Nashville. I came here from New Hampshire, and the Army's what brought me. And when I was at Fort Campbell, I was serving with the Green Berets, and I was fortunate because those guys like to think outside the box. And so when I found out very early on that I didn't want to be a part of this club anymore, I had some really intelligent friends, and they turned me on to some really good books: Rich Dad Poor Dad, Richest Man in Babylon. And so that kind of turned my entrepreneur mind on, and I started looking for ways out, and settled on real estate. But as time goes on, you find other interests and other avenues to make things happen. And then I have found that you're two people removed from anything that you ever want to do. So just decide what it is, and then start chasing it. So that's me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Well, good to hear. Thank you for your service as well. We've been to Fort Campbell not too long ago. Last fall, we were up at Fort Campbell with OpCon, and they're picking us up in Fort Stewart and Fort Knox and the 29 Palms, California, for the Marine Corps base, and with a lot of stuff we do. But yeah, Fort Campbell, they've already ordered some stuff that we do. We help with training. So, but yeah, we could talk about it a little bit later or something if you want. But at any rate, so yeah, you've been around good enough. Yeah, you entered
once
after,
or twice.
well, you entered after my son went in 2003 into the Marine Corps, and so and he's now out and 100% disabled. He was got out as Warrant Officer 4 out of the Marine Corps. He was a second recon, force recon, so kind of
Cool.
played that game too. So
I met some of those guys when I was in airborne school. They're some badasses.
they don't care anymore because, well, the Marine Corps doesn't care. So it's like.
No, there's only a few people who make like they look like they care, but
yeah,
See,
especially
I wonder if that's part of y'all's resilience is you say you don't care, but is it more of like a surrender or acceptance? And that kind of lets you start having that resilience, or no?
I'll let Jay answer.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, in my opinion, I think one thing I learned is as a Marine, but I went in '67. So, I mean, Chris, you're like real young compared to that time frame. And I know that what we went through, it's like going through boot camp. I mean, you got punched in the face, solar plexus, blood, puke blood. It didn't matter because you know what you're going to do. I mean, 50% of my platoon went to Vietnam, over 50%, and half of them died. And most of the other part of them got wounded. And but you get to a point where you just don't care, and you're not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid. I mean, what are they going to do? Kill me? I've already been dead 3 times. I don't. It doesn't matter, And you get to a point where you've dealt with so much adversity that it just doesn't. It bounces off of you. I think it's more than the word "don't care." It just okay, it's like that. So Cassidy, I think that's what it is. But does it add to your resilience? I think so, because that's what makes you resilient. You move beyond that. You don't. It just doesn't affect you. It's like, I mean, I've got a real good friend. I spoke to him last night, Gordon Lee. He's now 80. He was a Green Beret. He was, then it was Army Special Forces, and he was an E6. Got picked up second lieutenant, and they retired a major. And he was only in 9 years total. So he went up to E6 and then retired as a major, but he did 4 trips over the DMZ in Vietnam. And that was back when those guys went over, like Marine Corps Recon did back in the old days, or MAC v. SOG. When you went over, you disappeared for 6 or 8 months, and you used their weapons. You used AKs. You fired 7.62 by 39. You didn't. You did whatever you needed to do whatever, as much damage as you could. So but I talked to him last night. Now, like I said, he's 80, but he's ready to go back. He'll go out and do it again today.
Chris, when I say surrender, what is coming to your mind?
Oh, when you say surrender, oh,
That's funny.
what comes to my mind in this context?
Sure, in this context.
Okay, well, in this context, I would say, a lot of like what Jay is saying. The only thing that I would say is if I heard you correctly, your question was something along the lines of like nature versus nurture. Like, are you born with this resilience, or do you develop it? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
At the beginning? Okay. Well, so to kind of summarize what Jay said, it's a little column A, it's a little column B. So there are some people who are wired that way, where they're more resilient. A lot of times, by the time you see those guys when they reach the military, it might not even be that they're wired that way. It's that they were brought up in an environment that required that of them before they ever got to the military. And so then you're in a group of people who either have it or are seeking it because they don't have it quite yet, but they know that's what they're looking for. And so then you end up in this hierarchy system of brotherhood where the Marines are the most violent and they're at the top, followed by the Army and the Navy, although the Army and Navy tend to fight over who's top dogs, but we all know who the bottom is, don't we, sir?
That's right.
And then the Air Force and Space Force and Coast Guard, but who knows where they're at.
I was afraid when I say surrender that y'all's mindset went to giving up. So I was just making sure.
No. It goes to embrace the suck, because you don't have an option.
That's Chris. You had a good word there. Embrace the suck. We called it the suck back in the '60s.
Mm-hmm.
And the green weenie. That was another term we used. And
it's still around. It's still pumping.
Is it okay? But you know what, Cassidy? The word surrender, to a degree, in a book that I had just recently read by Eckhart Tolle, surrender doesn't mean give up. It means you can accept the situation as it is. Like, hey, okay, I got to go do this. I'm not going to not do it. That's surrender, I think, because you don't want to do it. But it's you acknowledge it and you follow through with it. But I don't know, and it's something Chris just said too, is the word resilience. I don't know that I even knew what the word resilience was. I never heard the resilience. We didn't talk about that in the 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s. It's kind of a new word. It's like back in my day, it was an attitude. You need to get an attitude check, and your brothers would take you out if you're in the military, and they'll give you an attitude check. Or like a blanket party at nighttime, guess what? That's an attitude check. Or you go out and get them drunk, or whatever the case is. But attitude kind of gave way to the word mindset over the last 10, 15, 20 years, it seems like. So, yeah, it's a combination of everything, but you're spot on. So, yeah, that's a good one.
I think you had written a book, Never Quit Trying, correct?
It's called The Strength Within You, Never Quit Trying. Yes, ma'am.
So that's very much about resilience, the process, the mindset you had to develop.
Really, the book, I've been told to write a book for 50 years or longer, because by the time I was 23, I'd already died twice. And the second time, a drunk hit me almost head on. He got thrown out of his pickup truck, no seatbelt, run over by his own truck, and killed. I had my seatbelt on in a brand new Monte Carlo, rolled multiple times, and I bled out. I mean, it tore the engine out and all that crap, And I think that for some reason, I just lost the question. Ask me again.
Oh, the mindset or developing the mindset, resilience in your book.
You were telling that
Oh, I know
story.
we're going with the book. I'm sorry. I just looked also at something else over here, and someone went by my door. Um, but the book really is more about some of the medical stuff I went through, uh, but it was only put in there to really. Um, I had a gentleman come about 2.5 years ago, and he convinced me. He did a live podcast here in my house that went on LinkedIn, and he's into it. He's a speaker. They promote a mindset kind of program. And he said, Jay, I heard a podcast you did 8 years ago with a guy out of Atlanta, and you talked about some things that were just blew my mind. And he said, I wanted to set this up. And he said, you made to write a book. So it took me a year, and I dictated it, and then somebody else kind of put it together. But again, while it covers some of the medical issues, it's really more about what did it take to get through that. And so, and Chris will understand this. It's whatever he's done. Let's say airborne. And I did my 3 jumps way back when, and it's not. And that's all I had to do. It got you your requirement, and at least in those days, and it's it's not about achieving something. It's what it took you to get through it and what you learned from that those setbacks or that terror or that, why jump out of a perfectly good airplane? It makes no freaking sense to me to this day. But guess what? You do it. But how did you do it? What did you dig in? Where did you find that in yourself? Was that your upbringing? Was that tough times you learned as a kid? Was it something that you got at church, at school, from your neighbors? And I think that all brings things. It's not inside you. The strength, it's not the strength inside you, because that would just be you as a person. The strength within you, to me, is all encompassing. It's the things you've learned since you were a child to the things that you've learned to this day, and use those to move forward into the future. And that's where I wanted to do, is try to help people understand what it takes to live through a year in the Naval Hospital and being in a coma for many months, and dying my second time, or my third time, when I jumped in a swimming pool July 4th, 1981. I was 31 and a half years old, married 3 weeks to the day, no honeymoon. We were back at work immediately. And they told me I'd never move again from the shoulders down. And I wouldn't accept that. And I'm going to jump back onto Chris for a second, and I'm sure that he's seen people too in the military that you do things above and beyond because you will not accept what they tell you you can't do. And to me, that's a strength, because it's like, in my acknowledgments, I acknowledge at the back of the book the people that stood my way, the people that told me no, the people that said I couldn't accomplish something, because that lit a fire under my ass to prove them wrong. I don't want, you're not going to tell me I can't do that. I can do that. I will do that. And that's really what it's about. I mean, because people need to hear that and understand that they have it within them to do it. Chris had it within himself to do things that 2 years before, he would have never thought about doing. Or it was just a suggestion of something. It's kind of like, I get asked why I went in the Marine Corps. Well, I don't know. I read comic books about Sergeant Rock when I was a kid that came from my cousin Bob, who was 7 years older, and he served from 60 to 64 in the Marine Corps. And he said, whatever you do, Jay, don't go in the Marine Corps. Well, that's like telling a kid to stay out of the candy jar. It's like, okay, when I get old enough, I'm going in the Marine Corps. Well, it's a learned and earned experience, and that builds upon it. But there again, the book, it's, what did it take for you to get through it? What did it take you to get over those humps and those problems? And then what did you learn from it? And that's where you build your resilience, because now it's like, wow, I did that before, and here's what I learned. Or here's where I would change it now if I'm to do it again. I won't fail this time. And I don't think, I've been asked while I'm on this role, um, what's it been like, or how did you overcome failure? I truly do not believe I have ever failed because I've always learned something from what I've done. It may have been a setback, but I always caught something. And that's not being that I'm great and all that. The fact is that if you learn something from it, then it's not a failure. You've picked up something from it that really leads you to better and to help other people.
People do not appreciate that enough. I encounter that when I share things with, for example, my parents, right? And they, oh, you lost how much money on that one thing? Oh my God, and it's like, well, okay, number one, let's get real specific with our words and our definitions. Failure is only when you quit. And last time I checked, I haven't quit yet. So that means that was a bump in the road that I need to figure out what I did wrong to avoid, right? Like you just said. And so as long as you learn something from it, and I've gone so far now is like, okay, how much money can I make with that lesson, right? So I had this big, mistake happen or whatever. Like, for example, have you ever not read a contract before? Okay. Have you, Jay, this is a real question. Have you ever not read a contract?
Oh, honestly, I don't read a hell of a lot of contracts because they're only as good as the paper they're written on.
Right. They're basically toilet paper, which is one lesson. But then another lesson is that although it is a piece of toilet paper, you have to read that toilet paper line by line, and you have to understand what it is that you're reading, because that is the determination whether the toilet paper goes in the trash or whether it goes into a locked box. And so, I've caught myself where I have read the contract, right? I physically, my eyes scanned the pages and I read the words, but they meant this much to me.
Exactly.
And then you end up in a situation that, oh my God, how could this happen? No, I didn't read it. So now next time I will read it. And guess what? Everything I do moving forward, that's because I read things, is a win from that one failure.
We learn from trial and error. Like, so if you make a mistake, you learn from it and you kept going.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the biggest tool I think we all go throughout life is and it's, to jump back again, even if it's trial and error and you fail, you didn't make it because of the error, that doesn't mean that you didn't learn something from it. So you just keep pushing through it. And Chris, you said something, or maybe I wanted to make a comment on it. Lost it now. You were.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it was about the contracts. Oh, I know. A lot of it, it's like, I mean, when we were building homes here and we quit 2.5 years ago, I signed, oh my God, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of contracts in, escrow and all that stuff. I got to the point where if you don't sign it, you don't get it. So you may as well not care what's in it, because if you don't sign it, you can't complete it. So, okay, just put them in front of me. That's it. Just keep moving ahead. And at some point, you have to have the knowledge to ask the person, what does it say? And then take it from somebody too. That doesn't hurt. And then also, you have to have some trust in certain people. And besides that, if you know where they live, that helps too. Because if they fail or they screwed you over, well.
Yeah. Remember, internet.
You don't need it. You need some good guys that were Army Special Forces, MARSOC or SEALs or somebody, and you can hold down. The hell with the internet.
I'll give you an 8-digit grid and a compass. How about that?
There you go. Okay, Cassidy, you got another. Go ahead. You started a conversation there. Your turn again.
Yes. I was looking. You talk about, is it faith, belief, and religion? There's 3 things that you distinguish between. or is it hope, belief, and faith?
Well, number one, I think hope is good, but hope is not believing and having faith. Hope is a mediocre term as far as getting you down the road. It's having complete faith that you can accomplish that, or believing you can accomplish that. I hope I can go to heaven, for example. Or do you believe in the Lord and that He died for your sins, and if you accept Him, you're going to be at the right hand of God? Okay, just throwing something out. So that's believing and having faith. The looking ahead, it's like when I walked on the parallel bars when I was learning how to walk again, and after being paralyzed, and it took a lot. I mean, months and months and months. But most people look at where they're at on the parallel bar right here, and they used to have to wrap my right hand around it because my right hand's paralyzed to this day. It's still paralyzed. So they'd have to wrap my left hand, could kind of grab it a little bit, and they follow you with a wheelchair, and somebody's in front of you in case you fall forward. But they only look right here. That's all they look at. I looked at the end of the bar. I looked down the road because that's where I want to go. I don't want to just go 1 inch. I want to go that 10 feet. So I think that's faith, that's hope, a little bit of hope, but that's faith and belief that you can do it. The other words, what were the other 2 words you said? How that worked together?
You discovered both, faith, belief, and hope.
Well, okay, so I covered that. Yeah, I think that's it. It's kind of like, hope is good, but believing in faith and really having that it's going to work. It's kind of like